From roaring engines to game-changing innovations, the history of muscle cars is packed with iconic moments that redefine speed, power, and American automotive culture. Discover the biggest turning points that fueled the muscle car legacy, from legendary launches to epic comebacks. Buckle up, because this high-octane ride through the muscle car history is built for true gearheads and speed lovers on today's episode of 5 Weird Things. Welcome to the channel. First, like, subscribe, share, and sign up for the channel. Get yourself some exclusives, shoutouts in videos, and watch all videos and shorts before everybody else. Now, when muscle cars first came around, the main demographic was 18 to 25-year-old males. Nowadays, muscle cars have been going on for so damn long, the demographic is men, some women, 15 to 90 years old, all races, creeds, and colors. Hell, muscle cars might be the most American thing just this side of apple pie and the flag. Alright, let's get into it. First thing we all need to know. A muscle car is an American performance vehicle known for its powerful V8 engine, rear-wheel drive, and an affordable price tag. Typically midsize or smaller, muscle cars are built for straight-line speed, rather than cornering finesse. They rose to fame in the 1960s and early 70s with classics like the Pontiac GTO, the Chevelle SS, the Ford Mustang GT, and the Dodge Charger leading the charge. Now, what sets them apart is the balance of brute force and everyday usability. Big engines in relatively compact bodies, often accessible to young buyers looking for speed on a budget. Unlike sports cars, which focus on handling and precision, muscle cars are all about raw acceleration and bold styling. Modern versions like the Dodge Challenger Hellcat and Mustang Dark Horse keep the tradition alive, blending retro looks with cutting-edge tech. Now, a fun fact, the term muscle car wasn't even widely used in the 60s. It became popular later as fans looked back on the golden age of American performance. Everybody got that? Good. Weird thing number 5, the muscle car renaissance. Now, from 2005 to the present, American muscle cars made a roaring comeback in what's now called the muscle car renaissance. After years of bland, underpowered models, Detroit rediscovered its horsepower roots, starting with the 2005 Chrysler 300C, which reintroduced the legendary Hemi V8 to a new generation. That same year, Ford unveiled a retro-inspired Mustang, blending modern engineering with 1960s swagger. It was a runaway hit that proved nostalgia could also burn rubber. Then came the heavy hitters. The 2008 Dodge Challenger, a near carbon copy of its 1970s ancestor, and the 2010 Chevy Camaro, resurrected with aggressive styling and big block energy. These cars didn't just look fast, they were fast. Now, by the late 2010s, things got outrageous. The Dodge Demon arrived in 2018 with an eye-watering 840 horsepower. That's just out of the factory. There are performance shops doing over 1,000, but it was capable of doing 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds, while still being street legal. Ford followed with the Mustang Dark Horse, a modern beast with track-ready performance and over 500 horsepower from a naturally aspirated V8. Weird fact, the Dodge Demon was so powerful, it came with a disclaimer that warned buyers not to use it in the rain or on a first date unless you enjoy scaring people into Ubering home. Okay, I added that last part. Weird thing number 4, the oil crisis and emissions regulations. In 1973, the muscle car dream hit a brutal speed bump. The oil crisis triggered skyrocketing gas prices, leaving Americans suddenly worried about miles per gallon instead of 0 to 60 times. At the same time, insurance companies jacked up premiums on high horsepower cars, making muscle machines too expensive for most young drivers. And to make things worse, new federal emissions regulations demanded cleaner engines, and automakers had no quick way to comply without sacrificing performance. The result? A devastating drop in horsepower across the board. Iconic muscle cars like the Chevelle SS, Mustang, and Charger were still around in name only, but under the hood, they were shadows of their former selves. The once mighty V8s were detuned, choked by catalytic converters, and robbed of their roar. It was a sad, smog-choked era, often called the malaise period by enthusiasts. And by the late 1970s, the situation was so grim that a Corvette, America's sports car, had less horsepower than a modern-day Toyota Camry. It was a weird and embarrassing low point for performance lovers. Muscle cars didn't disappear completely, but they limped along until the industry could figure out how to bring back power and meet regulations. That renaissance wouldn't come until decades later. Weird thing number 3. The horsepower wars. 1970 was the undisputed high point of the muscle car horsepower wars. A glorious moment when automakers went all in on speed, style, and street dominance. That was the year of absolute legends. The Dodge Challenger RT debuted with bold looks and powerful engine options, quickly becoming an icon. Meanwhile, the outrageous Plymouth Superbird, with its NASCAR-inspired nose cone and massive rear wing, looked like a rocket on wheels, and it practically was. But perhaps the biggest brute of them all was the Chevrolet Chevelle SS 454, boasting a monstrous 450 horsepower LS6 engine, one of the most powerful production engines of the era. Now, what made 1970 so legendary was the arms race mentality of it all. Manufacturers were shoving enormous engines into midsize and even compact cars just to outdo each other and to satisfy a public addicted to speed. The streets and drag strips were filled with V8 thunder, and every dealership lot felt like a racetrack in disguise. But it could not last. Those muscle monsters were powerful but wildly inefficient, unsafe by modern standards, and completely out of sync with rising fuel and insurance concerns. Still, for one glorious year, 1970 was the zenith of American muscle before the horsepower party hit the brakes. Weird thing number 2, 1964 and the Pontiac GTO. In 1964, the muscle car movement officially roared to life with the debut of the Pontiac GTO, a car that would earn the nickname the grandfather of muscle cars. It wasn't born through a boardroom decision, it was a rebellious act by a group of Pontiac engineers led by John DeLorean. Yeah, DeLorean. At the time, GM had a corporate policy that limited engine size in midsize cars, but the Pontiac team found a loophole. They took the midsize Tempest, dropped in a massive 389 V8, and offered it as an optional performance package. What they created was a street-legal powerhouse that was affordable, stylish, and ridiculously fast for the era. The GTO wasn't just about raw speed, it was about attitude, and it resonated instantly with younger drivers. Pontiac expected to sell 5,000 units, they sold over 32,000 in the first year alone. More than just a sales success, the GTO sparked the muscle car wars of the late 60s, prompting every American automaker to follow suit with their own high-horsepower models. The message was clear: performance sells. The GTO proved that practicality could take the back seat, preferably one that rattled from the growl of a huge V8. And finally, weird thing number 1, 1949 and the overhead valve V8. The 1949 Oldsmobile Rocket 88 is often hailed as the first true muscle car, blazing a trail long before the Mustangs, the Chargers, and the GTOs rolled in. What set it apart was its groundbreaking 303 cubic inch overhead valve V8 engine, the first of its kind in a mass-market car. Nicknamed the Rocket, this engine cranked out 135 horsepower, which was a big number for the time, and gave the relatively lightweight Oldsmobile 88 a serious performance edge. Oldsmobile sold over 100,000 Rocket 88s in 1949 alone, proving that the combination of power and affordability had mass appeal. Compared to competitors still relying on flathead engines, the Rocket 88 was a rocket ship in plaid slacks. It dominated NASCAR in the early 1950s, and it even inspired the song Rocket 88, often cited as one of the first rock and roll tracks. Now back then, the car was seen as futuristic and cool. Today, it's a prized classic, but its sleek, understated styling keeps it off of many collectors' radar compared to the flashier 1960s muscle cars. Weird fact, the Rocket 88 was so fast for its time that moonshiners in the Deep South started using it to outrun police, unofficially making it a bootlegger's dream machine. Well, that's it for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed, heard something you didn't know about. Do me a favor, watch more of my videos, and feel free to join the channel. Get those exclusives, including video shoutouts, be able to watch the videos and the shorts before everybody else. Take care, have yourself a great day.